At 8:46 a.m. on September 11, 2001, the most powerful nation on Earth stopped breathing. The sky over New York City was impossibly blue, clear, calm, almost mocking in its beauty. Office workers were settling into their desks at the World Trade Center, coffee still warm in their hands. Phones rang, elevators hummed. The world felt ordinary. Then Flight 11 hit the North Tower. At first, many Americans thought it was an accident. A tragic one, yes, but accidents were explainable. America was built on explanations, on control, on the belief that chaos happened elsewhere. 17 minutes later, that belief died. When the second plane sliced into the South Tower live on television, the illusion of safety collapsed in real time. This was not an accident. This was a message. By 10:28 a.m., both towers, icons of American ambition, were gone. Nearly 3,000 people were dead. Firefighters, bankers, immigrants, tourists, mothers, fathers, erased in hours. And in that silence, something far larger than buildings fell. America itself changed. In Washington, officials were rushed into bunkers. Fighter jets scrambled over empty skies. For the first time in history, all civilian aircraft in the United States were grounded. The country froze, unsure whether this was the end or just the beginning. That night, millions of Americans slept with their TVs on. President George W. Bush addressed the nation with words that would define the next 2 decades. Our way of life, our very freedom came under attack. But the attack was not only physical, it was psychological. Before 9/11, America believed oceans were walls. After 9/11, every shadow felt like a threat. The enemy without a country. Osama bin Laden was not a nation. He had no flag, no capital city, no army marching in formation. That made him more dangerous. Al-Qaeda had turned America's greatest strength, its openness, into a weapon against it. The realization shocked U.S. intelligence agencies. For decades, they had prepared for wars against states, the Soviet Union, China, Iraq. Now the enemy lived in caves, moved through ideology, and recruited through belief. This forced a brutal question inside the American government. How do you fight something you cannot see? The first shift, freedom versus fear. Within weeks, Congress passed the USA Patriot Act. Its purpose was simple: prevent another 9/11 at any cost. Its consequences were enormous. The government gained unprecedented surveillance powers, phone records, emails, financial data. Agencies that once competed were now forced to share intelligence. Privacy, once sacred, became conditional. Many Americans accepted this trade willingly. If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. That sentence became the quiet anthem of a nation in shock. Others warned, this is how freedom dies. The argument never ended. Before 9/11, airport security was casual. Families walked passengers to the gate. Shoes stayed on. Liquids didn't matter. After 9/11, airports turned into controlled zones. The Transportation Security Administration, or TSA, was created. Full-body scanners, no-fly lists, random searches that weren't random at all. Muslim Americans felt the change first and hardest. For many, the American dream suddenly came with suspicion attached. The war that never ended. On October 7, 2001, the U.S. invaded Afghanistan. The goal was clear: destroy Al-Qaeda and capture Osama bin Laden. The war was supposed to be short. It lasted 20 years. Trillions of dollars were spent. Thousands of American soldiers died. Hundreds of thousands of Afghan civilians were caught in the middle. 9/11 didn't just start a war, it created a permanent state of war. A new American identity. After 9/11, Americans began to define themselves differently. Flags appeared everywhere: cars, houses, classrooms. Patriotism surged, but so did division. Questioning war was sometimes labeled un-American. Fear became a political tool. Hollywood changed, news changed, even jokes changed. The phrase "never forget" was everywhere, but what it meant was never agreed upon. And somewhere, far from ground zero, Osama bin Laden listened to the chaos he had unleashed, knowing that the towers were only the beginning. In the weeks after 9/11, America did not simply mourn, it mobilized. Washington transformed overnight. Ordinary buildings gained concrete barriers. Armed guards appeared where there had once been tourists. Inside government offices, a single phrase echoed again and again: "We can't let this happen again." That sentence justified everything that followed. The birth of the surveillance state. Before 9/11, U.S. intelligence agencies were divided by walls: legal, bureaucratic, and cultural. The CIA looked outward. The FBI looked inward. Information moved slowly, if at all. After 9/11, those walls were torn down. The Department of Homeland Security was created almost from scratch, absorbing 22 different agencies. It became the largest reorganization of the federal government since World War II. America had entered a new era: prevention over rights. Phone calls could be monitored, emails could be stored, financial transactions flagged. The logic was simple: if we connect the dots fast enough, no planes will fall. But in connecting those dots, millions of innocent Americans were quietly mapped. Most never noticed. The invisible casualties. While soldiers were sent overseas, another battle unfolded at home, quieter, less visible. Muslim Americans began living double lives: a name, a beard, a headscarf. Suddenly, identity itself became suspicious. Mosques were monitored, informants planted inside communities. Airport interrogations became routine. Families who had lived in the U.S. for generations were asked a question that cut deeper than any weapon: "Are you really one of us?" For the first time, many Americans experienced something previously reserved for others: collective suspicion. The war expands. In 2003, America invaded Iraq. The connection to 9/11 was implied, not proven. Intelligence spoke of weapons of mass destruction. Fear filled the gaps where evidence did not. Television screens glowed with shock and awe explosions over Baghdad. Commentators spoke confidently. Flags waved again. But as months turned into years, the truth surfaced: no weapons, no clear link, no clean exit. What began as a response to terror became a lesson in unintended consequences. Iraq destabilized, extremist groups multiplied, Al-Qaeda fractured and evolved. America had cut off one head only to create many more. Children who watched the towers fall grew up never knowing peace. They enlisted, they deployed, they returned changed, or didn't return at all. For them, war was not an event, it was a background condition. Meanwhile, at home, Americans grew used to fear as routine: color-coded threat levels, breaking news banners, a constant reminder that danger was always near. Terrorism had achieved something powerful. It had reshaped daily life without firing another shot. Osama bin Laden, the ghost. For nearly a decade, Osama bin Laden remained free. That fact haunted America. How could the world's most powerful military fail to find one man? Conspiracy theories flourished, doubt grew, confidence cracked. Then, on May 2, 2011, President Barack Obama stepped before the cameras and said the words many thought they would never hear. Tonight, I can report to the American people that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden. Crowds celebrated, flags waved, justice, it seemed, had finally arrived. But something felt incomplete. Bin Laden was gone, yet the world was still unstable. Terror had not disappeared, surveillance remained, wars continued. The man was dead, the consequences lived on. What America became. 9/11 did not destroy America, it redefined it. The country became more secure and more anxious, more united and more divided, more powerful and more uncertain about its own values. Freedom survived, but it was negotiated daily. And as years passed, a quieter question emerged, especially among younger Americans. Was this the only way? Somewhere in the ruins of Ground Zero, steel was turned into memorials, names were carved into stone, silence replaced sirens. America promised never to forget, but remembering came with a cost. After 9/11, America didn't just change laws, it changed its voice. Television anchors stopped smiling, news graphics turned red, every headline carried urgency, every silence felt dangerous. The media discovered something powerful and terrifying. Fear kept people watching. The news that never slept. Before 9/11, news had endings. After 9/11, it became a loop. Breaking news was no longer rare, it was constant. Experts filled screens, speculating about threats that might come next. Sleeper cells, dirty bombs, anthrax, words most Americans had never heard became part of daily conversation. Fear didn't need facts anymore. Possibility was enough. Hollywood learns a lesson. Cinema followed quickly. Action movies changed tone. Villains stopped being fictional dictators and became faceless extremists. New York City, once a symbol of hope, was shown under threat again and again. Even superheroes were rewritten. They became darker, more conflicted, burdened with guilt. America was no longer imagining victory, it was imagining survival. Patriotism with conditions. In the early years, questioning war felt taboo. Those who asked hard questions were labeled disloyal, protesters were mocked, debate narrowed. The phrase, "support the troops," carried an unspoken warning, support the mission or stay silent. But as years passed and body counts rose, silence broke. Veterans returned with stories no one wanted to hear: PTSD, broken marriages, sleepless nights, a war fought for ideals that felt increasingly unclear. The cost was no longer abstract. It had names, faces, funerals. By the 2010s, a quiet crisis emerged. More U.S. veterans were dying by suicide than in combat. They came home to a country that had moved on, while they were still stuck overseas mentally. Fireworks sounded like gunfire. Crowded streets felt hostile. Trust was fragile. America thanked them, but often didn't understand them. Fear becomes political power. 9/11 reshaped elections. Candidates learned that fear mobilized voters faster than hope. Security became the ultimate campaign promise. Borders hardened. Rhetoric sharpened. The language of war entered domestic politics. Enemies within, us versus them, take our country back. What began as protection slowly became division. The children of 9/11 grow up. A generation came to age knowing only a world shaped by terror alerts and airport scanners. They questioned what their parents had accepted. Why endless war? Why mass surveillance? Why fear as policy? They didn't remember the towers standing, only their absence. And they began asking whether safety without trust was worth the price. The longest war ends. In August 2021, the U.S. left Afghanistan. The withdrawal was chaotic, painful, televised. The Taliban returned to power. 20 years, trillions of dollars, thousands of lives, and the ending felt unfinished. America watched and asked itself the hardest question yet. What did all of this change? The final irony. Osama bin Laden wanted to weaken America. He failed, but he succeeded in something more subtle. He forced America to look at itself, its fears, its power, its contradictions. The towers fell in hours. The transformation took decades. What remains? At ground zero, water flows endlessly into two massive pools where the towers once stood. Names are read every year. Silence is respected. But history does not stay silent. It asks, it waits. And every September, America remembers not just what it lost, but what it became.